There we go. And I'll just start in about a minute or two. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. How long you are already in London now?
I've been in London more than a year and a half.
Ah, okay.
So, and I lived in New York.
And you don't miss New York?
I did desperately. I desperately missed it. And now I don't miss it. So I don't know. I think we'll see when I go back, right? I mean, you went to New York often, probably?
Yes, I love New York. I'm missing New York.
Yeah. I can't believe I haven't been back in more than a year. So I miss egg sandwiches. Hi, Julia.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Franka. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Julia. Good to see you.
And we're just going to start in about a minute, and I'm going to introduce Franka, and then you, Julia.
Okay, great.
I'm just going to turn your
and
video
then should I turn
off.
I should turn my video off eventually?
Yeah, that'd be great. Then we can
Exactly. Okay.
to you.
All right, you let me know when.
Perfect.
Oh, geez.
I'll turn it up. I got it. Yeah. Perfect. Good. Well, I think I'll go ahead and start because we have so much to cover, Franka. So thank you so much for being here. Hi, everyone. My name is Annie Fitzsimmons, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to what I hope is a mini trip to Paris for an hour. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the trends towards remote, wild places post-COVID, but in talking to our Travel Advisory Council and Jennifer Wilson, who recommended Franka for this, we know that Paris and the classics are going to come back, and they will be amazing. So thank you for being here, Franka.
Thank you so much, Annie. I'm very glad to participate. It's great to speak to our American friends, whom we are very much missing.
Yes. So you are the general manager at Le Meurice, which is part of the Dorchester collection since 2006. And I love what you wrote in your bio. You said, I love the magic of hotels. So would you mind just kind of setting us up? Where are we in Paris right now? Where is Le Meurice?
Well, Le Meurice, as you said, part of Dorchester collection, is the perfect Parisian and French palace with, I would say, a combination of traditional and 18th century opulence and contemporary chic. So we are, the great thing about Le Meurice is that we are on an ideal location. We are Rue de Rivoli, but I never say that. We are facing the Tuileries Gardens because this really is known by everybody, I think. And the good thing is that all our suite, most of our redone, totally renovated rooms overlooking the Tuileries Gardens is on this side. And so we are only a few steps away and on a walking distance from the Louvre, from the Place La Concorde, and from the iconic Place Vendôme. I think every lady knows Place Vendôme with the high jewelry. And so the good thing is really that you have culture, nature, shopping all in once, and you can walk. So we are very close to all the museums. You cross the park, you have the Musée d'Orsay, you have the Jeux de Paume, I think everybody knows about this, the Orangerie, you go to the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, and on the other side to the Opera House, for example. So I think this is really one thing that is our great asset. So the hotel has 160 rooms and suites, and 29 have been redone over the past 2 years. And we really wanted to make it very elegant, a little bit like a Parisian home. So 18th century style, sometimes inspired by little Versailles design details. And this time we also associated, because we work for years now with the same architect, Charles Jouffre, and this time for these new renovations, he associated a young couple of designers, Margot Lally and Luc Berger, two French guys, like 35 or something, and they brought up some very new ideas, some modernity, but on little touches, so that you really recognize the style of the Meurice. And I think especially Americans love this because they are Francophile and they want the French lifestyle. And
Yeah.
so we provide state-of-the-art technology. It's not complicated. You can choose if you do want to do it on a computer or otherwise. And then I would say it's really the hotel of the views, and I will get back to this later. And the thing is, when you wake up in the morning, you really know you are in Paris. So
Yeah.
then we have, some years ago, we have redone our public areas. You probably heard about the Dali, which is our main restaurant when you enter the lobby. And we have revamped all these public areas and restaurants with Philip Stark some years ago. And this was a real great asset, a great idea, because he's a little bit, you know, what he does. And so
Yeah.
it was a kind of a bet, but it was a great success. And then, of course, we have, so we got all the Parisian crowd who is sitting here having talks and walks. And then, of course, we got Alain Ducasse, the world famous chef Alain Ducasse, to our hotel in 2013. He works already for the Plaza Athénée, and I know him for a long time. And so recently with young chef Amaury Bourou, who is our new executive chef, they really started to change concepts and everything. And then, of course, we have our famous Cédric Ollet, who is our pastry chef.
Yeah, on
and,
Instagram, he's an Instagram star, right?
Yes, and so
yeah.
Exactly, I was going to say,
Okay.
and so they really attract Parisians, and they are coming back now all the time because they know what they find. And a few years ago, we opened the pastry shop because Cédric really wanted a pastry shop. He said, you know, my dream, Mrs. Holtmann, is to get this pastry shop. And I was a little bit hesitating because I thought, oh my God, this is not really our job. It's strange. But we did it because he was so successful. And I must say, since it's open, it's the hotspot.
Yeah.
And you know, his signature is a selection of sculptured, like trompe-l'œil sculptured food. And so he also wrote some books, and the whole thing, you get viennoiserie, chocolate creations and everything. And so he constantly nukes for new ideas and concepts. And then, of course, we have since September our Valmont flagship, which is called La Maison Valmont, next door to the pastry shop of Cédric, and with a direct access on Rue de Castiglione to the spa.
Yes.
And you know about, I think I don't need to describe Valmont products because it's a Swiss product, and the owners are really much involved. So you get constantly new products, and it's a great label.
Well, yeah, and we actually just got a question in asking when the restaurants will reopen, because it says on the site that they're still closed. So the hotel is open, but the restaurants are closed? Or?
The hotel is open since 1st of September. For the moment, the restaurants are closed, but we hope that it was a question that maybe we were allowed to open on Easter, early April. And now we hear that it's probably our first minister. He will talk right now. He's on television. And to say what's going on. So in 1 hour, we will know. But normally it's only open restaurants with terraces or gardens, and the others might be later. I heard something about June. Yeah. So let's cross fingers.
Yeah, it might be on a similar path.
We want to accelerate because we are tired of.
Yeah, everyone's ready to open. Well, I mean, that was my next question. How does it feel right now? I mean, how does Paris feel?
Well, as we talked before you opened the session, I mean, we really never stopped. We always, during the whole time, now it's a year ago that the whole thing started, and we never stopped to take initiatives because we really didn't want to stop working, didn't want to stop to meet our clients. And of course, then with the lockdown, we were obliged. And so we did some brainstormings with my executive committee, and we said, well, we need to do something, and everybody became very dynamic. And we started finally, first of all, we continued our renovations. That was a very good point, and Dorchester Collection really allowed us to continue investments, which is crucial. And then we opened the Valmont Spa, but without any special promotion because we were not allowed to have champagne and cocktails and everything. But we did one-to-one meetings, and it worked well. And the very good thing is that we really started to do click and collect and takeaway. So this was amazing because our chef, our young chef, first of all, he did voluntary work in hospitals. And then Alain Ducasse, who is always the first to take new initiatives as well, he did this whole thing for the hospitals with his young chefs. And then, as we don't want to lose our Michelin stars and we want them to work and to be motivated, we started to do takeaway. And I must say it was great because Parisians were so happy after some months of lockdown to get the food delivered and tasteful, nice food from a star chef, and instead of cooking themselves. This was one of the initiatives.
Is there a takeaway culture in Paris before
It
this?
wasn't at all.
Same in London.
I mean, there were some modern chefs who probably did it. I was not so much into it, but it was not a culture, no.
Yeah.
And then when we started, for the moment, there are some others, the chefs who started, because those who have restaurants, they are really embarrassed with the situation and they need to work. And so our goal was also to really do tasteful menus, but 95% French, because, you know, with all these crises, people started to question and they wanted to know what can we do better and everything. And they really wanted to support their suppliers as well, because I mean, these guys are so much depending on hotels and restaurants. And so they were amazing. And we reached 95%, and our goal is to get up to 100%. So
that's good. 5 more percent.
Yeah. And it really goes, and we will do that onto the whole hotel. We will extend it to all the other places once they reopen. So,
well, and you also had an exciting Netflix film crew come in, right?
Yes, exactly. We hosted the film crew of Omar Sy for Arsène Lupin. I don't know if you got the occasion to watch it. I watched it because I wanted to talk with him about the series. And of course, it makes sense because we are very close to the Louvre. And also it gave a great insight to Le Meurice, because he was really cool and even took some of our employees on a small scenario. And so it was very exciting for everybody. And it's a good promotion for the hotel as well. And we love Omar Sy.
Yes.
Omar Sy, you know, he's now most of the time living in Los Angeles.
Oh,
more
okay.
than in France. Yeah.
So it brought him back.
Yes.
So, you know, what are some reasons? Obviously, people will return to Paris, I think, right away. But what are some reasons that they should come, like in the fall? Are there any exhibits or new openings that you're looking at or seeing?
I mean, I'm German and I'm in love with Paris. So for me, it's all the time, even if I'm here for a long time already. And I would say what people are right now, what I can see, because for the moment we have a lot of Parisians and local people. And it's funny, but Parisian young parents, they say, oh my God, we want to get away from the children and everything and spend one weekend together in a very nice ambience and just forget about all this COVID stuff and so on. And so we started to make special promotions, what you call staycation. And we did this also with Dorchester Collection. And so what we could see is that people more than ever appreciate the care and attention of the staff. They look for, I would say, a seamless stay. They don't need the upper luxury or something glamorous, but they just want to cool down, want to stay in a nice ambience. And I think they are also very keen of some festive moments, of some fun. They want to laugh again, and they want to drink champagne. And then, of course, there's still this thing that they want to feel secured, and we do all the necessary so that they feel secure, that there are all the sanitary things we have to respect, of course. Yeah. And what they really like now is the French lifestyle. And I think especially Americans or any other nations, they love to come to Paris for this French lifestyle and what we call art de vivre. So, and what we do, we try to really anticipate what people are looking for. And there is a whole project with Dorchester Collection to improve the entire guest experience. And that means we need to better know our clients, and it's nothing indiscreet, but we try when we talk to them or when they tell us something so that they never have to repeat things.
You're not stalking them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. And then, for example, somebody who likes a temperature at 21, that next time he comes back, he doesn't have to reclaim it again and all this. And then we try to find right now some hidden secrets. For example, we work with a very interesting photographer, and he suggested to me, he said, you know, Franka, when you have some very good clients, you know what, I can take them to the top of the Colonne Vendôme. You know, it's on the Place Vendôme, and you can walk up, and then you see, I did it. So I wanted to know what it was. And then you are on the top of the column, and you can watch the whole place, and you have all these sparkling facades with the high jewelry, which is like gems on this huge white place. And it makes you forget about everything. You know, it's like just a dream, and you have the architecture and everything, and you know you are in Paris. You see the widths. Sorry,
Yes.
it's my competition, but we have good relationships. And all this is very important. And I would say, especially now, we have some new things which will come up in the future, but especially now, I think after this dark period, you have to switch the light on and make people smile. And that's a little bit our goal, with food, with everything. So that's what we try to do.
Well, and I have like 17 more questions for you in 5 minutes, but I wanted to show a picture of the Belle Étoile penthouse because it's just so stunning. And I didn't know about this until I started researching. So let me just share my screen real quick, and you can start talking about, let me just show this incredible, I mean, look at this. This is your wow penthouse, right?
Yes,
Can you tell us a little bit about
my son, where I take my sun bath in.
Amazing. I mean, look at this. So, and this is, how big is this penthouse?
This is 3,000 square feet, the suite, and 3,000 square feet for the terrace, which goes all around the suite. So you have a 360 views degree.
Wow. So here's the other side of the view. So what are we seeing here? The Louvre.
Here you are on the side, you see in front of you the Musée d'Orsay, a little bit on the behind the Louvre with the pyramid. You can see it here. Do you see when I show it? No. And then, yeah, exactly where you put the, let me see.
You can see the pyramid right there. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this is amazing. And if you spend there the afternoon, because sometimes I hosted some specific events, you can see how Paris, the whole ambience is changing. We go from sun to slowly getting darker. Then you're in summer nights. It's wonderful. And we did a lot with our chef also about that, to do private parties, dinners, while we were not allowed to open restaurants. So it was only one family and only the number that was allowed to be there on this. But it's so big, so you have the distance, social distancing and everything.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So could you also talk a little bit about the Bourse de Commerce? I'm saying this wrong. Did you get more information on when it's actually opening? This incredible.
No. They said it's opening soon. So it's a private Pinot collection.
Who's the owner of LVMH, right?
Yes. No. It's Kering.
Oh, okay.
It's the other big one. You have Bernard Arnault with LVMH. LVMH,
the other one.
And you have François Pinault, who is the other heavyweight, which is Kering and all this. And he asked Tadao Ando, who is a Japanese architect, we did the Bourse, and I saw the whole, there was in Centre Pompidou, they did an exhibition, and you could see the maquette. How do you say maquette? And so I saw how it will be constructed. Tadao Ando is very typical to really get the light in and everything. And you will have a lot of contemporary art, because Mr. Pinault is a collector, and he really knows everything about art. He's an amateur and nearly professional in arts. And also there will be educational programs, and they will do screenings, conferences. There will be multiple things you can do at this Bourse. And normally it was supposed to open in June, then they said April. So for the moment we don't have an exact date, but it will be soon as possible.
It'll be one of the big draws, I think, or one of the
yes, I think
hot places in Paris.
Yeah.
We did have a quick question: how the Netflix collaboration for Lupine came about. Did they come to you, or?
Yeah, I think first of all we had Omar Sy very often as a guest, and he loved Le Meurice. And as I said, as he's now very often in Los Angeles, when he comes to Paris, most of the time he's here. staying with us. We know the whole family, the kids and everybody. And I think he really wanted to do it here. And then we had very quickly some contacts with Netflix, and the whole thing went very smoothly. And now they are preparing the second season. We are all waiting for it.
Can't wait. I would like to come then when they're filming.
I know.
So just to close, if I could just ask if you could suggest that someone eats one thing when they come to Le Meurice, what would that be?
Yes. I'm a sweet tooth, so I love sweets, and there are many very, very delicious things, but what I like is the lemon, what Cedric created from the beginning. So the fake lemon, the fruit sculpture, and it's one of his signature things, and I love it. And he even came out with his first book and made the book cover with this lemon. And he does now.
It looks like a lemon, and you can eat it. It's like
it looks like a lemon. When you see it, you think it's a lemon, but it's not a cake. It's a pastry. There is some white mousse inside, and then the mixed food. It's very light, very tasteful, and he became famous with this. And then you can go to his Instagram. And I mean, everybody, we have some clients who only come to Le Meurice because they want to see the star.
Well, I think that's a very good reason to stay at Le Meurice. But thank you so much, Franka. I'm gonna introduce our next guest now, Julia Browne. But I'm ready to come to Paris. So thank you. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Annie.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And Julia, if we can have you come on. I see there you are. And I'm just gonna turn off. There we go. So perfect. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm good. It's a beautiful sunny day in snowy Montreal, and yeah, my mind is in Paris. My body is in Montreal.
Yes. I mean, you have such an interesting background. So anyway, so I'm going to do a brief intro of you. I mean, Julia, we featured you in a story on Afar.com a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just thrilled to have you back because I was really moved by our conversation. And you own Walking the Spirit Tours. You've been guiding travelers through the history of Black Paris since 1994. And I'll let you tell your own story. But let me just first start by asking, how did you get the idea to start your company?
It got me, actually came and got me, grabbed me by the neck. I had moved to Paris in 1990 from Montreal. And I was just living a life like everybody else. I had a little child. I was married to a French man. And then I was taking courses at the Sorbonne, and my professor, the late Michel Fabre, a great man, we're doing a course on African Americans history, but he had written this book called African Americans, A Street Guide to African Americans in Paris. And so I love history. I love Paris. And so I took the book and I'm walking around, and then it says that Langston Hughes, the writer from Harlem, used to live in my neighborhood in the 17th district at near Place Clichy. I thought, whoa. So I went over there to the building and I kind of cased the joint. This is like in the 90s before they had the digicodes. Yes. And so I waited for the concierge to go to lunch, and I snuck in, and the book said he was up on the 6th floor. So I went up to the 6th floor. I stood in front of his door, this great poet who became the poet laureate of Harlem. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, wow, and so the book is about this thick, and so I took it and I walked around and around, and it was just, all of a sudden Paris became for me, finding this made an anchor for me, because I kind of moved from place to place, but this really brought me, put my feet on the ground and made me wanted to know more, but I also wanted other people to know more. But yes, so that's how I started doing the tours.
Well, and you talk about how it isn't just a job, it's a mission. Can you tell us more about that? Why do you feel like it's such a mission?
It is because, when you come to Paris and you do all the traditional things, and you can really skim the surface. You can come to Paris 10 times and still skim the surface, but there's so much down below that you don't know. There are so many layers to Paris. I mean, it's like 2,000 years old, right? So, or about that, and those years have got to show up somewhere, right? So I decided that I would make it my goal to inform other people, to share this information with other people. just to know that what you're seeing around you isn't all there is. That Paris is such a crossroads for so many different nationalities, so many different cultures. But if I stick to this culture, the diaspora, the Caribbean, Africa, North America, we're at the crossroads. And then you come here and you can't really see it, but let me show you, let me tell you. So that became my mission.
Yes, and you guide tours yourself, and you've also hired people. And I actually had a question. What are your most popular tours of Black Paris? And I wanted to ask you first about Josephine Baker, because I think she's endlessly fascinating.
She is.
And you visit her chateau in the Dordogne as well. Can you talk a little bit about that tour?
Okay.
Or Josephine Baker tours in general that you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start by saying that the reason why Josephine Baker is so fascinating, and the reason why that chateau is thriving today, is because people are, yes, as you said, Annie, people are fascinated by her. So when you go down to the chateau, you take the train down from Montparnasse to the small town there, and then you can go visit the chateau. When you go there, you really realize this woman she lived 8 lifetimes in one. She's what I call a shapeshifter. So you go in one room and you see her costumes and just the beautiful, the outwardly, flamboyant person that Josephine was. And then you go into another room and you see the medals, one room dedicated to her medals and her military honors. And you think, yeah, I'd heard that she was, running espionage for the French government but I look at all the medals here and look at all of the activities that she got into, look at all the many people that she helped, get out of France during the war. So, and then she used that very chateau for the French resistance, so they could, shuffle people through it. So, and then you go to another room, for example, you're in the kitchen, and you see all the posters of her chateau going up for sale, and you think, oh no, she's at the end of her life, she's lost the chateau, and your heart's kind of breaking, because it is really a heartbreaking scene to be standing in her kitchen where her children ate. You've just seen her children's bedrooms, and
she had like 12 children or something, right?
Yeah, 12 children from 12 different nationalities, from different nationalities. And so the chateau is a place where you can get the full picture and so much more that you don't know about her. And then in the end, she comes out and you think she's lost the chateau, but that's not the end of the story. She comes back and she does another big comeback on stage. So
yeah, she's really, you called her the first, when we talked before, you called her the first Black superstar, which
she was the very first Black superstar ever. And she is the most enduring Black superstar. Maybe Beyonce has maybe come up that far, but she's the one that has influence, but she influences many levels of society and over many, many different generations.
Yeah, and she came from nothing, basically,
nothing,
right? She came
from nothing.
Yeah.
Her mother was a washerwoman, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I think Americans especially connect that story. You also have this fascinating Black images in the Louvre tour, which I ended up researching pretty deeply. Can you talk about that tour and maybe a piece or two that you see on that?
Sure. When you go through the Louvre Museum, you are going probably first to see the Mona Lisa, you're going to see the Venus de Milo and all the big pieces. And there's, there are so many images that there's a lot you don't see. But if you do a tour, a focus tour, like the Black images, we'll take you straight to those pieces and show you within the well-known pieces, who are the Black people in this picture, in this painting or the statue, and what do they represent? Because they're not just there for, a painter doesn't put in somebody just for the sake of it. What do they represent? So the first piece that I really like is it's called the Portrait of a Black woman. It was called the Portrait de Négresse before, and then it was renamed about 2 years ago to Portrait of Madeleine. That's the name of the woman who's actually sitting as a model. But what's interesting about this painting is the woman, she's sitting kind of sideways like this, like you would see an upper class white woman sitting, right? So she's sitting this way. She's the only person in the painting, which is unheard of for a Black person at that time. The painting was done at the time when France was just in that lull between having abolished slavery in 1794 and reestablishing it in the early 1800s. So came out just in between that time. So she represents something. She represents this new woman, a Black woman, dressed like a white woman, but there's the sense of freedom, and she's one of her breasts is bare. So why is that the thing about the Black woman's body? Not necessarily, because if you look at like the two paintings down, you'll see the liberty leading the people, and she's exactly the same, and she is a champion of French freedom, So there's all these things mixed in. There's so many stories that you can just stand in one painting, and you can see what was going on at the time that the painting was thinking, what is the painting protesting against? Or what is it commenting on? And it's always something like that,
And how many pieces, or how long is that tour?
It's 2 hours. It takes about 2 hours, and there's probably maybe 15 stops, but they're at different ends of the Louvre. And the Louvre is immense, so you end up going from one end to another. Yeah.
And do you actually, we didn't talk about this, but do you have a James Baldwin tour specifically, or?
I don't have it on my tour on my website, but people do, like schools and organizations contact me to do a specific James Baldwin tour.
Okay.
That are studying, for example, James Baldwin. And a lot of schools do that, like they have a themed curriculum for their visit. So yeah, I do that one quite often, yeah. And he's a guy who got around Paris quite a bit too. So there's lots of different sites. So, I mean, he wasn't just around, you can't talk about the Latin Quarter and the Flo and the Dumago without mentioning James Baldwin. But you also can't go to Les Halles area where the old market used to be and not talk about James Baldwin. He hung around there as well. You can't go to, like, stand in front of Notre Dame and not talk about his rise, because he gets to read at the Shakespeare and Company, and he gets to go to fancy parties on the Ile de Saint Louis when his stature is rising. So he's all over the city, and so a tour of James Baldwin's Paris is a tour of Paris.
Yes. Well, I was just listening to the Obama Bruce Springsteen podcast, and they mentioned reading James Baldwin. So and there's they're opening a new center, right, based on his.
Yes, up in the 19th district. No, it's actually it's a center that's named as a mediatheque that's named Centre George.
Not focused on him,
but it's not linked to him specifically as a promotional piece for what he's done, but the spirit of James Baldwin, because it has a special area. It's going to have a special area for refugees and to serve refugees. So that's one part of it.
And do you know when that's opening, or have they announced a date yet?
I'm thinking 24, but don't quote me on it.
Okay, a few years away.
Yeah, it's not tomorrow.
Well, that leads me to who's an Afro-Parisian today that you think deserves a little more of the spotlight?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of people doing a lot of different things. We're like a team of people out there. But if I pull one person up to the top, there is the writer and academic Mabula Samoroho. She's reading incredible books about Black identity. There's Rokhaya Diallo. She's an activist. If you're in France, you've probably seen her on TV so many times. And she is strong because she gets arrows slung at her all the time. Oh. There is the organization Little Africa, run by Jacqueline MP Ngo. And she started doing tours of the Goutte d'Or area up in the 18th district. And now she's building with her team a center right in that same neighborhood that serves both tourists, locals. Local people in Paris come up and see what the Goutte d'Or is about, but also the local people. So she can showcase all this together, and there's a place for people to go, a one-stop where you can connect into Black culture in Paris. And then there's our great tour guides. There's a lot of really good tour guides that are out there. So that team.
There's a lot. Well, and are you seeing more interest in incorporating, Black heritage or modern Black introductions into all travelers' itineraries? Or
you can say all travelers, because in Paris, when you can take a tour for just about every different subject, right? So, but I have had several tour guides contact me and ask me how can they integrate Black heritage. What are some people in this area that I can mention? So I give them a couple of, and some of them are doing it on their own, but we get tour operators as well whose clients come to them and say, we want this in our itinerary. So now they're more aware, and they're starting to say, okay, we're going to put this, I've got your price sheet here, and I'm ready for whoever asks me, and I might even put it out. It's not as easy as a sell because it's still very niche, you know, and there are bigger niches, but with the focus on Black Lives Matter in this last year, and inclusion and diversity, and just the fact that France is a modern society and there is that Black history there, and it's part of the story. So, you know, the schools are always ask for, in universities and schools of all ages ask for, to include them in their tour. So the more and more.
And you have, I mean, we can't go to Paris right now, but you have this you were an associate producer on this documentary called Paris Noir, African Americans in the City of Light. Can you talk more about that and how we can watch that?
Okay, it's a documentary that can be streamed. This is a labor of love. The filmmakers are from New York, and they went to Paris for a year and then they stayed forever. That was 1986 or so. But the documentary documents the influence of African Americans in France, coming with the First World War, like the soldiers who brought jazz, who introduced jazz to the entire continent. And then we have the writers from the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s, the artists that came in the 1920s, the musicians and entertainers like Josephine Baker. They're the people that are responsible for that sense that Black was beautiful outside of the United States, right? Or outside of North America. So the film covers all of that, all the people, you know, a whole lot of people in whole different strands of society, and why they came to Paris, what they found in Paris, what was different from where they came from. And then it goes into the 20s, 30s, 40s, and then the second wave comes with the Second World War, and then the great expatriate writers like Baldwin and Wright, Chester Himes. So we cover all of that in the documentary. And it's the reason for the documentary is, again, to bring awareness. But in 1 hour, you can get the whole story. And then it's your jumping off point to go doing more research. And it's the archival images are, we've got the filmmaker Joanne Burke got them from all kinds of sources, many from the French film archives. And so it can be streamed on Vimeo. And the website is AfricanAmericans.Paris.com.
Yes.
So
and you can also purchase it. I mean, the schools are purchasing it, right?
They have educational license so that they can have it in their library, and all the students can access it. And I actually I'm invited many times to show the film at schools and to give a Q&A and to follow up. So it's a way of introducing anybody who's interested to this little slice of history that is a big slice of history.
Right. And making them want to know more. Making them want to know curious. More. Like our conversation made me so curious. What is something you wish every single traveler to Paris knew? I mean, they go to Paris for the croissants, for the wine, for the bread, but what do you wish everyone knew?
I wish people would be aware. I'm not going to say more aware, because you go to Paris because you have that idea of the croissants, the bread, and all that, the Louvre. But there's so much more to modern Paris. Okay, so you go and you're there for maybe a week, and but sometime in that week, look around and see how many different threads of culture live in Paris. Because Paris has always been a place where people have migrated through and migrated to. So all different Europeans, people from all different continents. And so just look around and see what makes up modern Paris, right? Yeah. If you go into a jazz concert, where did that come from? If you go to Chinatown, what's the history behind that? If you hear there's a concert at the Swedish Cultural Center, what's the history behind that? And then you'll see there's so many African restaurants that are opening up all over the place. So there's just another look at Paris that it's not old school, it's modern, and it's so much more inclusive.
Yes. Well, we had a couple of questions come up. One person asked, is it Julia doing the actual walking tour in Paris? And the answer is sometimes, right?
I do sometimes. I started doing them myself. And then about 10 years in, I started in 1994, about 10 years in, I started hiring guides. And because, you know, there's a demand and you can't do everything. And every guide brings something's different. So
Yeah.
if you get me, I'm coming from a certain point of view, but then you get one of our guides, like Kevin or Oleg or someone, and they have different backgrounds. One will be from Martinique, another one has a mixed race background, another one has half Russian, half French. So you get a chance to ask these people questions. What is it like to be Black in France? And then of your particular background or your connection to France. So it's, if you don't get me, you're still going to get something fantastic.
Another question was, do you do Black street art tours? Oh, Julia, we just lost you.
Not yet, but there's an idea.
Not yet, but there's an idea. Okay, perfect.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
back.
The internet is a bit unstable.
No, it's worked well so far. We just have a minute or two left, but you mentioned African restaurants. Do you have a couple of favorites that you could talk about, or are they in a certain area of Paris? Or are they all over?
They're all over. You know, that I used to go to a lot when I was living in the 19th last summer was, or it wasn't even last summer, it was the summer before, African Fusion of a chain. They're a chain, but I like the Villa Masai, which is much more upscale. So what you're finding is more fast food ones. There is, oh gosh. I can't even name them off the top. There's so many. There's so many.
Put them into the chat if you think of it. But I had one more question, and do you offer virtual tours? You do, right?
Sure. Okay. I do, but they're usually privately asked for, requested. Okay. So we're getting there. We're getting there slowly, but not right.
But you would just have to email you if you had.
Yes.
You wanted.
Yes. Because I've done many of them privately. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, Julia, thank you so much. I'm going to introduce our last guest, Emmanuel Cornubetet, but I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much.
See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Yeah. Bye.
Emmanuel.
Yes. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
How are you? I'm good.
Good. Well, we have so much to cover, and so I'm just going to jump right into it. But I'm thrilled to have you. You're the founder of the 1492 company, and you work with travel advisors to plan incredibly special trips to Paris and France. Will Cabers on our travel advisory council said that you are one of the most special Paris and France people that he knows. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's very kind of you.
We had a ton of questions come in for this webinar before. And one of them, I wanted to start just by asking you, what is the latest news on Notre Dame? What's happening there?
It's a good one. Well, as you know, the French are always loving a good controversy and complaining in general about anything. So about Notre Dame right now, it's the trees, because they have to find those huge old trees in order to redo the beams. And so they are going to have to cut them down, obviously, and some people are not happy about that. But as the Notre Dame is to be redone exactly the way it is, that's what is going to happen. But the actual work hasn't started yet. It took a long time to get rid of the scaffolding that burned, whatever, it was dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And then COVID didn't help speed things up. But then they're on track to start this year. They initially, by they, I mean the president himself, said that it should be ready by the Olympics 2024. Now they're saying probably 2025. But the good news, so this is the bad news. The good news is that we believe that in some way, especially for our clients, because we used to have very special access to Notre Dame, I believe our clients will be able to get special access in a year or two. And then they have been saying that worshiping will be allowed even as the renovation is still ongoing, but I don't expect that to be before at least 2 years, because they need to make sure that everything's safe obviously, and that's going to take some time. But yeah, in the next 2 years, I think people will be some type of public is going to be allowed back into Notre Dame.
And that's one of the benefits of a really good advisor, right? That special access.
That's sort of what we specialize in. So I'd say yes. But it's also great that the worshiper, because it's a church after all, first and foremost, and I think it's good that they are going to be able back in. And also the city of Paris just announced that they're going to spend 50 millions sort of refurbishing, making it more modern and I guess more attractive. You know, this old square in front of it, which is a huge square, and it's an empty square always. So they're going to do something about that.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, and I wanted to ask you about hotel openings and fun stuff like that, but we did have a question about, which of course is very important to what we cover at Afar, about the future of sustainability in places like Paris. What is Paris doing now for a more sustainable future?
Well, of course, there again, the Parisians are divided. Some are all for it, some are all against it. But generally speaking, and beyond Paris, the French, you know, as much as they are grumpy, they understand that we need to move in that direction. It's easier in a more modern city. It's a lot of challenges for Paris, but it's not going to stop, you know, people, because the public wants it, most of them, and you know, a lot of the politicians understand that this is the way to go, whether slow or fast. And so there is money and there is will, and I think it's gonna go. I don't want to say, you know, it's not where you are on the political scale. I think they all agree. Our current mayor has done some, other will say a lot. She's really trying to to go to the next gear with a lot of urban forests on the menu, a lot of
Can you say urban forests?
Yes, urban forests. Actually, the first one should, because she want to, you know, be an example, is going to be in front of Paris City Hall itself.
Oh,
you know, the huge city hall in the center of Paris.
Yeah.
It's a huge empty square again, which they use for event and whatever. She wants to plant trees, and we're talking about actual real trees. And this is supposed to be what they call a urban forest. There are only renderings, of course, for now, but it looks really promising. A lot of vegetative roofs. But again, this is a challenge in Paris because we don't have a lot of those flat roofs that you need for that. Beyond that, what they're trying to do each time there's a new building, a new construction, as you can't really tear down buildings in Paris. That's the issue there. They are trying to make the old buildings really modern and energy efficient in all different ways, but without compromising the outside, because again, that's against the rules. Now, some of the buildings are getting special treatment. That is, they can add maybe one level or two, but if it's glass and if it works well within the environment. One of the biggest challenge coming is the refurbishment of Gare du Nord, which is actually going to be a challenge because it's one of the biggest hub in Europe. Not just for trains and the Eurostar, but also for trains going, in Germany and the Netherlands, and also it's a hub for the entire Paris region. Right. And they want to bring office space. They want to bring. It's really a little. Let's put it this way: it's a little tired and even dirty. I'll go that far. So they really have a lot of work there, and they want to bring, of course, some nice boutiques, restaurants, blah blah blah. So it's going to be a huge project, and I think this is going to set the tone for the type of project that really can bring Paris together. The history of Paris and the beautiful Paris and the modern Paris for the real people that actually live there. That's going to be a real challenge for the coming years. Well,
and the idea
it's supposed to be ready for 2024 as well.
Well, and the idea is to use, you mentioned some of the Olympics money, perhaps, to kind of promote more sustainability. Exactly. Good. Well, so I wanted to talk about Cheval Blanc, because that's a huge hotel opening in Paris. I don't know when it's opening exactly, but
who knows?
Yeah. Why is that such a big opening? And I don't think also people realize that the city of Paris made sure that there was a social diversity element for that opening as well, for this huge luxury hotel.
Yes, yes, you're right. That's actually, I think this is one of the most modern thing that this mayor has done, and it has been done, many years ago. Although we are only talking about it now, I think this was a really big thing, saying Paris can be both. Paris can be, a city where there used to be, only very poor neighborhood, and you would walk in the mud, not that long ago, by the way. And only few places were for more high-end residents. So the center of Paris, which is very popular for tourists and school bars and whatever and restaurants, is not traditionally is not a posh area. It's a very popular area, and actually Samaritain was the very first department store in Paris, and as such was designed sort of for the working class, definitely not high-end, and initially, yes, because not everybody could afford a vacuum, a vacuum or whatever it was sold there, but it really wasn't high-end. Like if you want high-end department store, right away you think Galeries Lafayette, Printemps, and even higher Bon Marché, which by the way is also property of LVMH. And really
they own everything.
Almost. It's either him or Pinot.
Right, which Franka mentioned, right? The other Pinot.
Yeah, exactly. with the Bourse du Commerce. So it's really that's why I think the city of Paris and the mayor was really adamant that yes, you can go 5-star, you can go all the way, beautiful, luxury, elegant, but we will ask that in the meantime, at the exact same time, you provide, housing for people that can't afford, because let's be honest, the rents in Paris have been going up, of course, with what happened last year, slightly going down, but let's not fool ourselves, it's going to come back. And this is one of the few things that can be done to try to balance it out. So the hotel itself now, well, the department store is going to be a luxury department store. It's a beautiful one because it's historical, because it's old. It has beautiful frescoes, Art Deco and such. And of course, you can trust LVMH to do an amazing job. The hotel itself is a bit of a mystery. I mean, I heard about it a long time ago. I was offered an art tour, which I declined because I really wanted to see it, like ready. The location is really great. I mean, overlooking the river, and if you are higher up on the upper floor, you have a great view of Paris. Cheval Blanc definitely is a different product in terms of hotels. In my opinion, although it's not Amman, it's trying to go there. The one property I know from them well is the one in Courchevel, and it's definitely one of the top hotels in Courchevel. But I think Courchevel is very different. The pressure is on for Paris, because obviously Paris, the expectation, and it's where LVMH really
will certainly be one of the bigger openings. And there's also definitely. There's also the hotel at Versailles, of course, which many of us know about, called Grand Control. Grand Control,
yes, we've been really waiting on this one, because I mean, the news itself. Like, think about, you can actually spend a night at Versailles. That's what it is. It's not, you're not in a hotel looking across the street at the castle. You actually where actually, that's initially, if I'm not mistaken, that's where the stables were. So you can't get more inside it. It's looking over the orangery. It's it's really. I mean, we don't really know what to expect. Although I've spoken with the owner of the whole group. They want to keep it very hush and whatever. But I'm really excited about it, because it's definitely going to be more than just a hotel stay. It's going to be a whole experience around Versailles, and we do offer very special access to Versailles as well, along with more regular touring, but it's always so difficult. It's always so, because between the movies and the whatever and the French rules, which of course we're known for, it's anything in Versailles that is just behind the scene or different from the regular tourist pass is difficult. So opening a hotel inside Versailles in itself, it's like, is that a joke? I didn't even believe it at first. So I'm really, really excited about that. Seeing, I hope they'll be up to the challenge, because if it's not great, then it sort of scramble and be like, oh my God, it was such an amazing opportunity to do something almost unique. And so I trust that they have done a great job and will do a great job. We'll have to see, because the service definitely will be difficult because it's Versailles. But yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Oh, I think we've been waiting for that one for a while. It's the AIRELLES. It's AIRELLES. We just had a question.
Yes,
Grand
exactly.
Control.
Yes.
And I think it's Elaine Ducasse, the restaurant as well, right?
Yes, but the Ducasse restaurant opened already. It's called Louvre.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this same brand has a couple of other hotels that are actually one which one which I love is Bastide de Gourde in Provence. Yeah, it's a great hotel, and they also actually own the property that is managed by Amman in Courchevel.
Yes, I mean, and they have a new one in Val d'Isère as well, right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, so and I wanted to ask you, because of course we're talking about Paris, but there's so many amazing things within an hour of Paris, and you had so many good ideas. Can you talk about a few of your favorite places to go that are just within an hour away?
Sure. I mean, that's sort of always a challenge. It's funny. I mean, of course, our clients are high-end, and by definition, they want, sometimes there are contradictions and whatever. They want to be inside Paris, but after a few days, they're like, we need some air and let's get out of Paris. But that's New Yorkers are like that, I guess, and Londoners are like that as well. So that's no surprise to us. So yes, I'm always sort of surprised that even if our clients are well-traveled and whatever, they don't even know that there is probably as much to see outside Paris than inside Paris. I mean, some clients still don't know that you can find Monet's own house and garden like an hour outside Paris. And let's not even get into the castles, because there are so many. We would spend an hour just saying, and you can do a lot of things. You can even go to a winemaker an hour outside Paris. You can go to a cheese farm. You can milk cows and goats yourself if that's your fancy, or try the different cheeses and see how they're made.
I just wanted to bring this up because you mentioned a minuscule chateau. What is that?
Yes. Well, minuscule. It's for a chateau. It's minuscule. It's a nice little estate. It's Alexandre Dumas' own castle, and he actually
the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes, right? Of course, he named it Monte Cristo because that's his big thing, and it's beautiful. It's I'm an architecture buff, and this is just beautiful. It's a perfect little gem. You would think it's a castle that is big enough for one person. In my mind, Versailles is ridiculous because not even 100 people can live in this place because it's just But Monte Cristo is really a castle. It feels like where I could live there just by myself, and it would be my own castle. It's a perfect size. It's wonderful. But there are so many of those castles that are less famous. One of my favorite that I discovered as a child is Vaux-le-Vicomte, and more people know about Vaux-le-Vicomte.
Can you spell that? Sorry, can you?
It's VAUX space LE space VICOMTE.
Okay.
And actually, without Vaux-le-Vicomte, not many people know that Versailles would still be a hunting lodge. Still be a little thing nobody would know about. It's only because the king went to that castle that back in the days belonged to his minister of finance, got super jealous because saw that this castle was amazing and was like, this must have cost a lot of money. So this guy probably stole money from me. And he actually sent him to jail, stole his interior designer, the painters, even the guy who did the landscape, and brought everybody to Versailles and said, okay, now you do the same, better, bigger. And that's exactly what they did. And Vaux-le-Vicomte also got famous because it said that, it's a legend, of course, that the mask in the Iron Mask was jailed there for some time, maybe.
Okay.
Yes. So,
wow.
But it's a beautiful little castle, 45 minutes outside of Paris, that everybody should absolutely see. Fontainebleau is 20 minutes away, and a lot of people go to Fontainebleau by train, by bike, by car, by bus. They completely forget that you have to stop at Vaux-le-Vicomte. It's on the way. It's right there. It makes no sense.
Can't miss it. And you also mentioned the Barbazon Village, which I wasn't familiar with, and also the place where Van Gogh killed himself, Auberge Ravoux.
Yes,
Right.
yes. The Barbazon is actually right there. A perfect day, if you're going this way, is Fontainebleau, if you must, which, I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it's just, well known and whatever. Vaux-le-Vicomte, you have to, and then why not stop in Barbazon for lunch? It's a beautiful little village. Like, actually, Parisians pay fortune to get a little house there because it's so beautiful and quaint and typical and whatever. And you have this auberge, which was like some kind of a dump of a hotel, let's be honest, where all those painters came and they would wake up at the crack of dawn and with their gear and go out in the woods and whatever in the field and start painting, and even come up with this new sort of painting, and it's beautiful. And then you have near Giverny, and we usually also pair those together. You can see Monet's house and garden in the morning, and then in the afternoon on the way back to Paris, we stop in Auvers-sur-Oise, and you have the Auberge Ravoux, which is also sort of an inn, an old inn, and where people would just sleep and eat and work, as Van Gogh was doing when he was painting around there. But it was towards the end of his life, so he was not all there at the end, as I understand it, and that's where he actually killed himself.
Oh, well. I'm ready to go now again, but I wanted to just end. We have 1 minute. I wanted to ask you, because I think I wanted to ask you about rooftop restaurants in Paris.
Yes.
Just a couple of your favorites, because I think we're going to want to return to be outside, of course, but also just to have these incredible views. So what are your favorites?
Yes, I think the best, that's sometimes the problem. You have an amazing setup, a beautiful view, and the food is disgusting. That's sometimes my problem. So in order to avoid that, there's one sure thing in Paris. It's L'Oiseau Blanc, which is on top of the Peninsula Hotel. You can't go wrong there. Now, if you are a little more adventurous and you're willing to give it a try, I couldn't try it because of what happened, but there's a new place that opened in Paris, right on the Champs-Élysées, with a really beautiful terrace, a lot of green, beautiful view, and the interior design is really nicely done. Now, the food is the one thing that I can't tell you about yet. It's called Bum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It has some kind of Asian, sort of Asian.
How do you
fusion.
spell it?
I think it's B-U-M, I think.
Oh, B-U-M, like bum. Okay.
Yeah, which is not great in English, I'll give you that, but in French it works, and it's Asian sort of inspiration, whatever. But the terrace is really beautiful. Now you have two rooftop terraces that are with good restaurant you can go to, and they are on the top of Galerie Lafayette, and you can it's Julien Sebag, the chef. You can always trust this guy. Another terrace which is great for a younger crowd, dancing, clubbing, whatever. It's on top of this green, the Fashion Institute, which is this sort of very, very modern green building, if I can describe it as such, which is sitting on the water, on the river. And you can't miss it. It's a huge green thing with glass. And on top of that, it's been called many things, but it's basically, they have two spaces. One is on the ground floor, which is open. They used to have DJs, music, food trucks, whatever. And on top of it, they have a restaurant. They have some food, some sort of food stalls, and you can grab some food, eat it there. They have DJs, they have bands, they have whatever, and a lot of different things. That's pretty cool. That's
what was the name of that? The name of that?
Well, they usually call it the City of Fashion, and the top of it used to be called Wanderlust.
Wanderlust.
But
that's what we all have right now.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
They've changed the name of it so many times. I don't know what they call themselves nowadays, but you can't miss it. But it's for a younger crowd looking for more of a, DJ clubbing vibe. But it's really cool, beautiful views. And when it's sun outside, you could spend the entire day and night there.
Well, thank you so much, Emmanuel. We are out of time, but I really, really appreciate it. And I hope to see, thank you again, Julia and Franka. And thank you all for joining us for a little mini trip to Paris.
You're welcome.
Thank you.